of beginning.
Sorry.
That's okay. The premise of beginning this, what has been an unbelievable adventure, quite frankly, was drawn out of frustration. Um, I found myself, as I took on metal detecting, getting increasingly frustrated with the entire process, not the metal detecting process, because I was perfectly happy going out and just being in the woods. I'm a woods detectorist and not finding very much. What was very frustrating for me was the lack of access, reliability, and technology that was available to those that are interested in spending far less time doing the research and analytics. And I would find myself doing hours and hours of research in advance of going out and digging for an hour or two, and then coming back and then trying to figure out what the heck it was that I pulled out of the ground, how old it was, what it means, identifying it and really trying to truly understand what all of that means. And, as I started to do some research, what I ended up realizing is a couple of things. First is that as advanced machines have gotten over the last 15 years, thanks to Nokta and MindLab and XP, um, largely the rest of the industry had been stuck in the Stone Ages. And it was very frustrating to me. My real job is running a publicly traded financial services company. So I sit on the executive level team of a firm that is traded on Nasdaq. So I've seen quite a bit of technology and the application of it, and how it could take some of the most archaic industries and bring that into modern times. So I started to investigate it, and became very lucky in finding a developer that works for the Army Corps of Engineers and develops code to allow the military to communicate with portable missile silos. And as we started to work together, what I quickly realized is that I was far above and beyond anything that I was capable of developing independently. And number two, I needed somebody to take the crazy ideas that I had and the application of it and turn that into code and then test it and test it. And what I'm about to show you today, although the code is only about 12 months old at this juncture, we just surpassed 300,000 lines of code. And just to kind of give everyone an example, an average website has about 2,500 lines of code. Okay. And that's not intended to impress you. What it's intended to do is to say that this is an amalgamation of an incredible amount of research, over 300 what's referred to as APIs, which culminates into over 77 million data points that our platform has, all with a bent for the metal detectorist. Okay. This is all intended to create a greater opportunity for everyone in that room to yield better results when they're out, whether it be on the beach, in the woods, or in a field. Okay. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is kick things off and bring you through our tool set. I promise most of any questions that you'll ask, I promise I'm going to answer them. If not, at the end, I'm very happy to, if we have time to answer them. There's a lot to go through. This is going to be like drinking through a fire hose. Anyone that is interested, I'm more than happy to do a one-on-one with. Our platform has grown over 1,000 users just alone in the last. Well, we've grown over 1,000 to 1,000 users in just the last 6 weeks, just based on adoption. And we continue to put out some of the, in my opinion, the best tools and technology available, all for fun, right? And lastly, I'll say before I turn things into the demo, this is not intended to replace skill, right? Those of you that have been metal detecting for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, artificial intelligence and technology is never going to replace the skill of how you swing your coil, how you set your machine, right? And how you survey the land. This is intended to be complementary to that, to ultimately give you the best chances of being in the best location, having the best information at your fingertips. And it's important that everyone knows that, because there are those of the camp that technology is the enemy and technology is the future. Wherever you sit, whatever camp you're in, we're fine with. Some of you may love it, some of you may hate it, but this is intended to increase adoption into the detecting community to attract the next generation of detectorists. We all have a gray hair problem in this industry, right? It's less apparent in your group, but I belong to a metal detecting club here in New York. The average member is probably in their late 60s. We've got one person less than 50, and that's me. I'm 46. Right? So in order to be able to attract G2, in order for this industry to survive and to thrive, we need to target and identify kids, grandkids of those that have been detecting for a while. We created a G2 program. Any kid that's between the age of 13 and 18, they automatically get a free membership, and they get 60 credits per month for them to use at their discretion. Right? We have a program for veterans. They get 100 credits per month, free of charge forever. There's no cap on that. So we're trying to do everything we can to bring in interesting parties in order to continue to flow new detectorists into this hobby. Okay, so I just wanted to preface that with that little overview. With that being said, I'm going to share my screen here and bring you into the tool set. So just bear with me 1 second here. Let me share my screen. And for those of you perhaps in the front row, maybe, and where did everyone go? Maybe someone can raise their hand and just confirm that, in fact, you can see what should be the home screen of the landing page, which for Memorial Day is a soldier that has his helmet on his rifle and some crosses to the right. Can everyone see that homepage? Okay, great. Yep. Wonderful. Okay. So just wanted to make sure. So you'll notice the landing page, and I'm going to bring you quickly just through the navigation area and just let you know where you folks should be focusing your time if you do decide to try it out. The landing page is intended to be very clean and simple. Why? Because there's enough tools and enough technology for your eyes to roll to the back of your head. So we wanted to keep things somewhat simple and organized, right? Where most of our folks spend their time is in the tool section on the top of the navigation bar here. Right now, we have 12 incredibly powerful tools that do some pretty incredible things, and those are the ones that I'm going to go through. What I wanted to bring to your attention first, right, and you should see now Discover, Book, Detect. Yes? Okay. So this is not a tool, but it's going to be a resource for everyone here. The premise behind this tool this solution called Rent and Detect is almost exclusively based on the fact that I found in this hobby, especially on the East Coast or in very populated areas, there are many detectorists out there that don't have access to land outside of their own or a friend's, and permissions are sparse. Right? If I showed up and knocked on someone's door in the Bronx, New York, or Brooklyn, or Staten Island, right, or any of the boroughs in New York, and asked them to detect, they probably would put a shotgun to my face, right? So it's not really conducive, right? Although there are plenty of friendly people, it's not really conducive for asking for permissions. And as someone that travels quite regularly for business, I've done quite a bit of business with Airbnb and Vrbo. And I thought to myself, for detectorists, there's got to be a two-sided marketplace that exists where I can bring together those that are interested in metal detecting but either don't have access to many permissions or are sick and tired of just digging in the same park or in the same open area. And at the same time, on the other side of the coin, I know for sure there are plenty of people that owned land that's either not utilized or just in the woods or somewhere that they might want to monetize. And if there was a way that I can bring them together in a fully automated process and create a two-side exchange to be able to do that, that would be great for the hobby, at least in my opinion. And that was the genesis and birth of Rent and Detect. So Rent and Detect is a very similar concept to what I'm sure everyone is aware of Airbnb or Verbo, right? Any property owner that has anywhere from 5 to 30 acres can register their land. They can identify what the rules are. They can set their own price, right? The market's going to dictate whether or not people pay it or not. The average property is anywhere from $50 to $125 a day, right? It's fully automated. So those that are the property owners can very easily list by just clicking host a property and add their listing. On the renter side, and that's what I'm just going to quickly show you, go through a profile through. On the rental side, this is what a typical profile of a listing would look like, right? So, of course, just like Airbnb, it's going to show a wide variety of pictures. The property owner is going to put all of the important details on there within regards to about the property, any known historical significance, any discounts available, right? Whether it's 15% off for a multi-day rental, maybe they want to offer 10% off for the first 3 rentals or 10% off for weekend bookings. Our technology, once they upload the address on the landowner side, we will do what I'll refer to as a light analysis and give the property a score out of 100, right? Based on that, what we'll do is really calculate the score breakdown, and that's going to consist of a number of factors. Historical significance based on the analysis that we have access to, right? Military skirmishes, Revolutionary War, Civil War, other historical known things to have happened within that proximity or a certain proximity of it. The property age and its registration of title, property size, the terrain quality, right? And what we'll do is we'll essentially add them all up together and ultimately develop what we call a hunt score. Now, what everyone needs to know here is that hunt score has a diminishing value, meaning we have to build logic in everything that we do. So although this property, and those in the back probably won't see it, the property was actually scored a 76, and some of you may see a -3 right here. That is because each and every time the property is rented a prior time, we reduce the value of the score by 3 points, right? Because it's going to just be less desirable each and every time it's rented. Someone's more likely to find a coin or an artifact, and the market will allow to dictate not just the score, but the pricing will be impacted as well. But we do provide all of the back-end data, right? We also identify historical periods, potential finds based on the location and the historical significance, terrain analysis, property rules, and you literally look at the price. If that works with you, you click pay, you book now, you identify when you want to do it. It's fully automated, just like any Airbnb. Right now, we're working on an API to mass upload about 250 properties across the United States by mid-June. A majority of them will first be on the eastern seaboard, and then we will expand westward. The average property is going to have about 30 acres, right? And this is essentially just a two-sided or open exchange that gives detectorists an opportunity to detect on, excuse a French here, likely virgin land, right? That is deep in the woods that they didn't know existed ever before, right? So love it, hate it. This has caused a lot of chaos and stir up in our community. But the fact of the matter is that we're bringing more properties available. This isn't grandma's house on the corner that you wanted to hunt for the last 20 years. This is probably somewhere deep in the woods or on a farm that you didn't know exist. Well, now you have access to rent that property out for a half a day, a full day, or multi-days, and be the first person to be able to likely ever metal detect on that property. Okay, so that's rent and detect. I just wanted to bring that to your attention because that's probably one of our most asked about features that will be available likely around mid-June at this juncture. Okay, I'm just going to mosey on over to the next page. Do me a favor, folks, on the front row, just raise your hand if you just kind of see a map here, a topo map. Okay, great. Wonderful. So I'm going to move essentially from least powerful of the tools to most powerful. This is our Explorer tool. Now, it's not saying that Explorer isn't powerful. It actually is, right? But the reason why it's not as powerful is because this will always be a free tool forever. It's a combination of every topographic map, every overlay that you can possibly think of, where we will do some light analysis and research and provide you with baseline data so that if you wanted to take a look and identify a potential location where you might be interested in metal detecting, you at least have a baseline. As we continue to go deeper into the tool set, they will become more powerful, right? Some more expensive than the others, and we have a universal credit system here, right? And really what that means is that every free user gets 20 credits a month. Our tools range from 1 credit per scan to 5 credits per scan. You use those credits as you see fit, right? Our Explorer tool costs 0 credits. Okay, so it's pretty simple here. When you get into the Explorer tool, there's a nav bar on the top here where you can do two things: type in an address or enter latitude and longitude coordinates. For the sake of the demo, what I've done in advance is I've already entered an address in the coordinates, and this is essentially what the initial result will look like. On the left-hand side, similar to what you saw in Rent and Detect, we are going to create a score, right, and identify what type of score that is out of 100. So this one ranks a 78 out of 100, which is considered to be exceptional. The score breakdown is going to be out of 40 points. This one in particular was 30 for historical significance. Terrain, it's flat, so 25 and easily accessible, 25 out of 25. Soil, 8 out of 20. The soil by me is highly mineralized, and it really throws off the VDI, right? So it only scores an 8 out of 20. And then documentation within regards to historical significance, a 15 out of 15. On that particular area, it's going to give you some light detecting intel, identifying that within this immediate area, you can expect to find things like colonial coins, religious artifacts, personal items from historical structures, right? It's going to give you a little bit analysis of the depth. This area you can expect to find not just clay heavy soil, but artifacts in depth from 6 to 12 inches, right? It's going to give you some AI insight that, hey, this particular area that you searched has some historical sites around it, and those are what some of the pins that you see on here that I'll get to in just a moment are, right? We're going to give you some inferred themes that there's a high degree in this immediate area that there's a colonial settlement, that there's something that has a religious significance and a community development. There's 25 nearby sites where you can actually see where those sites are on the map by clicking on it. So if I clicked on, for example, the Rossville AME Zion Church, it will then zoom in directly to that area. And what you'll notice is we will provide historical context on that pin and provide detecting tips. So this particular area, just to kind of give you an example, it's located in Staten Island, New York, in the Rossville neighborhood. It's an African Methodist Zion Church that represented an important part of Staten Island's African American and religious community, right? And it dates back to the 18th century. Okay. It's then going to give you detecting tips within regards to how you should detect on that property, right? So there's a bunch of features and functionalities on the left-hand side that it's identifying, right? What people really like about our Explorer tool is that we have a layer that allows us to offer every conceivable type of overlay and map possible. So right off the bat, this is just a satellite, right? I can overlay that with a USGS topo map, right? The last national topo map that came out and that is still clean is from 1982. So you'll notice as I zoom out, right, the rendering is incredibly smooth. It's going to show you known structures, right, by the squares and the circles that are on there, okay? We are able to overlay, depending upon the area, historical hot air balloon images, and I'll show that in a moment. And for areas that are historically less developed, where they didn't put together aerials back then, we have photos, and I'm going to show you what both look like. So right off the bat, if I wanted to see, if I just toggle the topo maps off, and I wanted to see what this parcel of land looked like in 1924, I can simply click on it and use the shading and literally go left and right and look for structures that existed in 1924, what it looks like today, right? I can do that as much or as little as I want, all within this area, right? So you'll notice here that it's literally highlighting the area that I'm doing, and the rest of the map remains normal. Okay. So I can do it that way. I can zoom in and it will re-render almost crystal clear for 1924, which is pretty amazing. Okay.
And no watermarks.
No watermarks whatsoever. We're actually in discussions in buying the historical topo company, right? We're in early discussions with them, right? What's amazing though is if I zoomed out and I go to where this exact location is, which is the address that I searched, right? I can do what's called a shield scan, and I'm going to do that in just a moment. What a shield scan does is, for the area that you're looking at, it will actually compare what it looks like today versus, and what structures exist today versus what it looked like in 1924 and where there were structures there, and identify, hey, there was a structure in the 1924 overlay at this location. Right now it's in an open field. That could very well be a good location to dig, right? Here's likely what that is. So if I click on the shield scan, it'll take a minute to promulgate, right? But what you'll notice here on the left is the 1924 scan. On the right is the current scan. It's going to show that there's an 85% confidence that there's a barn, right? Or that there was a barn in 1924, approximately 40 to 50 feet long. Now it's just an open field, right? So it's going to tell you that there's excellent detecting potential there, and you may want to consider it. If you wanted to find out, or the easiest way to navigate to that exact area, you'll notice here we have a QR code. You can simply pick out your cell phone, open your camera, scan that QR code. That will open Google Maps. It will pinpoint to that precise location. You save that location, and then when you're close to that area, you just open that location and use your phone to navigate as a compass to that exact area, right? We do that for all, I think here we have nine different identifiers, or 9 different targets that it identified that's worthy of exploring. Okay? In addition to that, if I just go back up to the top and take off the historical aerial, right? If I wanted to identify what type of soil exists, right? You're going to start noticing that there's dozens upon dozens of these little letters here, right? That is the soil composition on a national level. So we have the ability to identify what type of soil exists, right? The different type of soil viscosity, right? We can shut that off, right? We've got national parks and trails overlay, admin boundaries, hiking trails, federal lands, right? We offer for free users a very light LiDAR. You guys are going to go, you're going to love the LiDAR that still is for free. That's a more powerful tool, right? You can look at Street View, right? So there's a ton of tools here available for free. That's our Explorer tool, right? We don't charge for it. It's free. It will always be free. This is kind of an introduction to Subterrix, or an intro to some of the tool sets that we have. Okay, this costs 0 credits. So this already is going to organize probably 15 to 20 different sites that you may be using that are far less quality for free, all in one site with overlays, dependability, clarity, and a smooth utilization. Okay, so I'm just going to move on, and I'm going to now talk to you about what we call Expedition Planner. This, to me, is a crown jewel of Subterrix. This tool itself is connected to 33,000 data points and over 31 layers. So what does that mean? This tool is intended to provide the most comprehensive research and analytics when you have a specific area, an address, or a latitude, longitude that you want to explore, but you don't want to go there yet. You want to just find out information on historical significance. Was there a homestead there? What significance of history was there? Was it known for housing or being close to a military skirmish? This does everything for you, and I'm going to bring you through that tool really quick. What I wanted to point out, and really the only reason why I left the landing page here, is that there's multiple ways to access the expedition planner. You can simply type in an address and it will pre-populate the rest of it for you and do a search. You can pick a location on a map, right? A lot of times when I'm looking for a place in the woods, there's no proper address. So you can simply click on the map, zoom into any location, and just drop a pin. And then use that location and then do a search. For those folks that like to use latitude, longitude, you can also enter the coordinates there. And then lastly, if you happen to have forgotten to do one of these, although I'm always going to recommend that you use Subterrix on a desktop or laptop, you can open it up in the mobile web version. You can click use my location. It will ping to the satellite. If you accept it, it will literally do a scan right over you and identify the closest areas, and you'll see what that looks like, but it'll do a scan right exactly where you are if you happen to be in the middle of the woods. As you're prepping for the scan, the more information you enter in any platform, the better data it's going to give you. So in this particular area, it's going to ask you what you're searching for. In this case, we'll just say coins, relics, buttons and buckles, and artifacts, okay? It'll offer different durations, right? Maybe I can only go for a few hours in the morning. Maybe I want to go for a whole day. Maybe it's a multi-day trip with a bunch of friends, right? You can identify that, and then you just essentially click Generate Plan. When you generate a plan, the whole world of technology and information opens up to your fingertips. I'm going to go through this, but this is what an expedition plan looks like, right? And I'm going to stop in each one of these areas. I'll breeze through them, but I do want to show you this is a comprehensive analysis of a specific location, bringing together data that you didn't even know was accessible into one report that you can utilize to enhance the opportunity of finding something meaningful when metal detecting. So what I'll do is I'm going to start off at the top, which is the expedition map, right? I'm going to expand it for everyone. And you'll notice in the map here, the red pin is the center of the location that I was researching, okay? So that's just the point on the map, okay? These other pins, based on the information that is available, public, private, through APIs, through public websites, through periodicals, through almanacs. These are points of interest that are within within walking distance of your location that the technology is telling you, hey, you really should check out these areas which are in close proximity. So if I clicked on one of these pins, you'll notice in this particular case, that pin, which is in the park actually that I searched, has what's called the Corson family stone chimney and hearth, right? It's a colonial era domestic hearth site, right? It gives data about the fact that it was built in the 1600s, right? The 17th or 18th century. It was a household occupation and daily domestic activity within the Willowbrook area, right? The Corson family owned and operated it. The location is currently in a wooded parkland and favorable open detecting conditions, right? So it's going to give you anywhere you point, it's going to give you information to different areas that you're going to want to look at. This particular area was known for being the hub of the Battle of Staten Island during the Revolutionary War, right? And it's going to tell you it's about 1,920 meters away from the point that was dropped in the center of the park. It's going to give you information that the Battle of Staten Island occurred in 1777, right? It literally occurred right in this area. So just outside of this area, right, within this proximity, that's where you're going to want to start swinging your coil, okay? So it's gonna give you a minimum of 4 to 6 pins and data points. Okay. As we move down, what you'll notice here is that these pins and data points, when you click on them, right, the target zones, you can click on any one of them and it's going to actually show you or bring you directly to that area. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's great that you're showing me on a map. How do I get there in person? Well, similar to before, you click on this button just to the right, it will scan, it will give you a custom QR code. It will give you information. It's going to give you the exact latitude, longitude coordinates. You open your phone's camera, you scan it, you save it in Google Maps, and when you get there, you open up Google Maps and you use your phone as a compass to get to that exact coordinate.
Hey, Ryan, we got a quick
Yeah.
question.
Sure.
If it's a historical site, would it populate or not?
So if it's a historical site, would it populate or not populate? Like if you're not supposed to detect on there?
It will populate, but it will identify that it's a historical site. Meaning like a protected historical site. We have over 1.8 million historical sites loaded into Subterrix. So it's not going to delineate. It's going to delineate, hey, this is a property that has historical value, right? We're going to leave it up to the detectorists to determine if there are areas outside of that historical site, if it's worth metal detecting. We also have a tool that's going to be able to about 98% confidence, tell you what the rules and regulations are relative to metal detecting in any area in the United States. That's called our Recon Property report. That is a tool that I will show you in this tool set.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. So as we look at the different target zones, what we built in here are just a couple of different overlays, right? Some people like side-by-side overlays. If I click on true overlay, I can literally toggle back and forth as far as the saturation between the two, because what I'm going to want to do is potentially identify structures that existed that no longer exist, right? If I did, simply, you'll see the crosshairs on the map here, and actually let me expand it, right? So if I, let's just say that there was a point right here, right? I can click on it and it will also create a custom QR code for you to save into your phone, okay? So there's 2 overlays there, compare then versus now, okay? It's then going to give you the score again, but what it's going to do is it's going to give you the artificial intelligence analysis breakdown, right? So 80% of that score is based on its historical proximity, right? Settlement patterns is 75%, physical evidence, 50%, military activity, 70%, 60% accessibility and preservation, okay? It's then going to give you really detailed data on the target zones, right? The Corson Helmsted's chimney represents one of the earliest European settlements in this region, dating to approximately 1680. It's the oldest structure amongst the documented features in Willowbrook Park area and offers insight to early colonial domestic life on Staten Island. This is that first point that we clicked on. It's going to give you its own unique score. It's going to give you what type of metal detecting pattern you should use, right? Grid pattern, right? A sweep pattern. It's going to tell you, it's going to do a back-end LiDAR search and let you know that there's at least 1 ground dip and 1 water channel within that immediate area. It's going to tell you that 4 to 10 inches is likely where the artifacts or coins are going to be, just based on it analyzing the terrain. Right? The era is 1680. It's also going to identify challenges. Right here, it says limited access due to commercial development, right? What you're likely to find and the detecting potential. But what I find most amazing is that we have access to tools and platforms that the average person doesn't have access to. Things like LexisNexis, right? Historical permits, right? Where this, let's say any state keeps on file construction documents, right? Building documents, foundation details. What we're able to do for many of these sites, for any one of these, right? I can click on view what stood here. It's then going to look within the database, gather all the detail that it possibly can. It's going to then stitch together and render exactly what that structure that may or may not exist anymore would have looked like back in the time of when it was built or at some point in period. In this case, it's 1680 to 1720. Now, when I was originally building this platform, forgive my French here, but my bullshit meter went through the roof when I started to think about this concept, right? But then I put it to the test, and I actually am going to show you what that looks like. So if anyone can see the screen clearly here, you'll notice that the chimney vertically goes up, it then curves in and then goes all the way up, right? And it's obviously stone. Now, the artificial intelligence has no idea whether or not this structure still exists today or not. And the fact of the matter is, I use this example because I know for a fact it does, because I've detected in this park. So if you can take a look at the shape of the structure, the height of the structure, and what that looks like, this is what the structure looks like today in 2026. Okay? It is very close. It will never be 100% because it's artificially intelligence generated, but we have access to data, building documents, foundation documents, building permits, structure permits. Now, in New York, obviously, it's going to be more than wherever, right? But we are able to stitch that together and render details of what that structure would have looked like. 9 out of 10 times, those structures don't exist anymore, right? But you can literally do that with any structure that we have, right? So we'll click on the Battle of Staten Island and what a structure or what the property would have looked like, right? For a fieldstone chimney and hearth with domestic foundation, right? During the time of the Revolutionary War and the Battle of Staten Island, right? Seaview Hospital, right? Other historic structures, right? As we go down, it will then give you a complete breakdown of the historical context, right? Starting in 1680, right? Which is the oldest, all the way through the Battle of Staten Island in this particular case, and then the development of the farm colony and Seaview Hospital. It's then going to say it'll identify for you the land use history. So pre-1700s, it's the Lenape indigenous American Indians. Then 1700 to 1850, the colonial farmsteads, right? Then it was changed to agricultural and rural development. And then between 1900 and 1985, it was institutionalized for development with public health facilities on it, right? It will then map out for you your day schedule. It's going to give you details on the type of soil and do a full soil analysis on the property. Based on your detector, which is in your profile, it's going to fine-tune the detector settings based on the known mineralization of the soil, right? And it will then identify other additional nearby points of interest that are of historical value, right? This is typically where the real historical locations are, where it's not necessarily going to suggest to detect, right? And by the way, we always feed out cemeteries and graveyards, right? And if it does show it, it will then identify with, big orange or big red lettering that cemeteries and graveyards are largely frowned upon for detectorists and more often than not illegal. And if you are attempting to do that, you do that at your own risk. Our intent is not to tell people what's legal and not. We have to assume that people are using sound judgment, right? But we do identify when there's something that we know usually is off limits. Okay, so that's Expedition Planner. Okay, we're now going to move to LiDAR, which happens to be our most popular tool and from a technological perspective, our most sophisticated. Okay, by a show of hands of you in the room, how many of you have tried or use LiDAR on a regular basis when you're looking at sites to potentially detect? Maybe I see a couple. Is the reason why not perhaps because, and I'm not going to assume here, but usually it's based on the fact that most people don't know what they're looking at when they're looking at LiDAR, right? And therefore, it's not really able to deliver much value other than the fact that it looks cool, okay? I built this tool for one reason only. My dad's 75. He loves to metal detect. He doesn't even know how to turn on a computer, right? But loves the concept of LiDAR. And what I wanted to be able to do is build by far the best tool, and this is where some of the military applications come into play here. Build the best tool that has all of the technology on the back end for the geeks, right? And the people that really love the data, but simplify it by leveraging artificial intelligence to where we're able to actually scan the terrain and tell you what you're looking at and suggest exactly where you want to detect based on the analysis. Because even with the military, the LiDAR and the precision bombs that they drop and what they're looking for is all artificially intelligence generated. So what I'm going to do quickly is just go right to what a search looks like after you put in an address, a latitude, longitude, or pick on a map, same as expedition report, right? And what you're looking at really is three different things. The main image here is the true LiDAR. Now, this is free. Any one of you that has a free account with Subterrix has access to this LiDAR program, right? What is gated, or what is for elite users, is the tool on the left and the tool that's in the top right. The tool on the left is what we do for people like my dad that don't know what they're looking at, where we're scanning the ground and saying, hey, we've identified the 3 best points of interest based on our scan as to where you should be focused and where you should metal detect. It's going to point those out for you by simply clicking on any one of those numbers, right? So you'll see the first one, right? Point 1, mine adjacent activity bench, right? Why this area matters. It's level terrace on a slope, possible home site work area. Well, what do you know? This also happens to be the same park that we just looked at, right? So it's identifying that there's likely a homestead on it, right? Or a home site, right? It's then going to tell you to grid that flat area systematically. This is the most likely activity zone. Similar to any other prior page, you can click on a QR code. It will bring you right to that location. Okay? It does that for the 3 most obvious areas where there are depressions or likely convergences of depressions in the ground, right? Above and beyond that, what you also see here in the red or the pink is a heat map where we're saying, hey, in addition to those 3 points, any area that's highlighted pink or darker in red, those are areas that you might want to focus on as well as secondary or tertiary locations, because they also are highly likelihood that there's an artifact or something historic in that area. Okay? So you don't have to be a LiDAR expert. Okay? What you have to be is willing to use technology to help you out. Okay? So that is a feature that is only available for our elite members. Okay? Now, before I point out what's at the right, on the right, what makes our tool so much better than anyone else's out there, and I stand by that, is the fact that 99% of LiDAR that's out there, even ones that charge $39, $49 a month, and yes, they do exist, they only allow the user to zoom into about 25 to 30 degrees or meters from the ground. That's what this looks like right here. The minute that you start zooming in, it becomes blotchy, blurry, and pixelated. Okay? So we're at about 25 here, right? Here we're at about 20. Here we're about 15. Here we're about 10. Notice how as we zoom in, it will repopulate or regenerate, right? To where we're about 5 meters from the ground, about right here, right? So we have a much cleaner interface, right? Take a look at obviously there's a stream here, right? But we can zoom back out. And what I love about this tool is not necessarily that you can zoom in natively, but the other area of where our elite value comes from to elite users are the tools on the right. So if for those of you that can't see, I'm hovering over something that's called high res. So I can simply click on high res. It's going to open these crosshairs here with a perimeter, right? I can drag that to any particular area that I want, right? I'll drop it right here and click scan here. What this is going to do is this is going to bring you 1 meter above the ground and clarify better than any other LiDAR tool. So this is literally, even though we're not zoomed in, it's showing you additional crevices, depressions, or other unnatural or natural crevices or depressions in the ground, right? So it's about 1 meter or half of meter from the ground. We can certainly then just clear that out and just go to a different area. Additionally, okay, for those that really love LiDAR, we've got what's called a 3D view. This is probably the most advanced LiDAR that anyone's ever going to see. We actually have archaeology companies asking to license this, so I can simply click on 3D view. What that's going to end up doing is it's going to end up removing the grayscale, or what is known as hillshade, from the LiDAR analysis, right? So all LiDAR is natively is millions and millions of these little dots, right? And then the way that you're actually able to see those dots is by hillshade. Imagine hillshade just being like gray hot liquid that's poured over those dots, and that's what really shows the elevation of any particular structure. We've natively removed the hillshade. This is natural LiDAR, and there's a number of things that folks that are elite users have the ability to do. First of all, we're able to hover and swivel 360 degrees, right? And what we're really looking at here is elevation. The blue is indicated as lower elevation, the red, then there's green, yellow, orange, red, right? So there's really no high points of elevation, but there are some low points of elevation, right? For those of you that notice, if I go at the ground level, you'll notice there's some floating dots. Does anyone want to take a guess what that might be? Trees, brush, bush, right? Let's get rid of those. So we're going to click on the cogwheel here and just click on ground only. So that gets rid of anything that's not actually on the ground. So we can, go back, move it anywhere we want, right? We can look at it from any angle. And what makes our LiDAR so much different than anyone else is that we have the technology to do what's called just a reverse laser scan, and actually allow the user to take a look at the ground from what it would look like rendered from underneath, right? Because we're looking for pockets, right? We're looking for empty areas, which are likely foundations, cellar holes, and whatnot, right? Where this tool really gets a little freaky, right, is when we start messing with the elevation, meaning that this is just rendering flat, right? Well, we can't really tell the elevation other than the color coding that we've done. Let's change that. So I have the ability, first and foremost, to brighten things up a little bit and just give a little bit more detail. But now when I start changing the height scale of this, right, I can then actually look at an exaggerated view of where the lower areas are, what they look like, imagine what they might be. So this is likely just going to be a stream or a waterway, right? But we're looking for things just like this that might be interesting, right? We can do that from the top, right? We can just change our view here. And even more so, what most people like doing is look at it from the bottom and see areas that they might want to look at, right? There's all sorts of fun buttons. You can change the intensity, the land type, right? You can reset everything if you want, right? You can recalibrate it. You can reset the calibration of the height scale, the point detail. You can click and unclick some things, right? Depending upon what it is that you want to look at, right? But this is kind of the geeky side for those that really enjoy LiDAR, okay? If I wanted to, I can just go back out here. And then lastly, which is still a free tool, is any native map or LiDAR, and I'm sure everyone knows this, right? If you hold down the left mouse button and drag down, you're going to go north. If you go the other direction, you're going to go south, right? If you drag to the left, you're going to go east. And if you drag to the right, you're going to go west. The major difference between our free tool and anyone else's is that I can hold down the right mouse button and I can actually take a look at the terrain on a 360 basis, almost like I was in a helicopter. Okay. Now, where does that come important? Where does that come in to be important? Imagine if we were in Colorado or in Utah and we wanted to see the different mountain ranges and get some detail, right? Look how it's able to render. Look how clear and how it clarifies it as I move around, right? And then our kind of V2 of this, or our version 2 of this, which most people don't even know that exists because I haven't published it yet, is if I layer it, and by the way, this is all available for free with historical topo map, right? Then it's going to give me almost what a live image would look like with elevation. So you see the numbers on the mountains as far as the elevation is concerned, right? The formation of the rocks, any trails that exist, right? Any waterways that may exist, right? Any parks, right? You can do this on, a local level, on a national level. I can also overlay that with satellite to render it just a little bit, different, right? I can zoom in, I can zoom out, and if I wanted to, I can literally remove it, and now we're back to native LiDAR. There's no tool out there that gives you access to these tools. This overlay and this feature happens to be free, right? And you just zoom out, and you can actually zoom out to see the United States, and look how fast it clarifies. Right? Let me actually just get rid of the satellite. There you go. Zoom in, zoom out. You can take a look at elevation, and it just reclarifies about as fast as anything that's out there. So that's iLiDAR. Okay? We're going to breeze through the rest of these tools, right? Deep strike. So as I explained a little bit earlier, our expedition planner is for when people have locations that they're interested in getting information from a historical perspective. The challenge that exists with a lot of folks that have reached out to me that said, Ryan, the expedition planner is amazing, but it's amazing for when I have an idea of where I might want to detect and I have a latitude, longitude, or an address. I have no idea where I might want to dig. So I thought to myself, well, that'd be interesting if we can take the expedition planner and engineer it and turn it on its head. And that's Deep Strike. Deep Strike is almost identical technology to expedition planner, but it's intended to be the inverse of it. This is for when people have absolutely no idea where they may want to metal detect, and they just want to find the best locations based on the analysis that we're doing. So they can simply type in a city, a state, an address, right? It will look within, I believe it's 10 miles of that pinpoint. And what it's going to do is first and foremost identify the top three and give you a score. So the area that I live in, right, the top three is Conference House Park. There's a reason why, right? There was actually an attempt to stop the Revolutionary War at Conference House Park. So there were two presidents that actually met with the other countries to try and broker a deal, right? There's Boxwood Hall State Historic Site, and then Alice Austin House and Park. But there's also 24 additional locations. So if I click on View All 24, right, here is the center point, and these are all the areas within a 10-mile radius that I might be interested in digging in. On the left-hand side, it's going to rank it from A+, along with a score, all the way down to a B and a score as low as 62. If I was interested in learning any more about these, right, I can simply click on, for example, Conference House Park, right? It's going to give me an aerial zoom of the area. It's going to tell me why this spot. It's going to give me a breakdown of the score that includes terrain, historical, foot traffic, soil quality, point of interest, proximity, accessibility, and a historic park name. It's going to give other historical intelligence of areas that are very close to it. It's going to give me a terrain analysis, field guidance as far as the type of soil, right? The sensitivity of it, the frequency of it, right? It's going to give you the best timing for digging there. In this particular case, it's in the rain in the fall, right? And for these particular properties, you then can run a property recon report, which essentially is if you want to find out if it's legal to dig there, whether or not if you have a permit, whether that permit applies, whether it would be considered trespassing if it's private property or commercial property, whether it's state, federal, or county land, you can run that report straight through here. But Deep Strike is intended to give people an opportunity to find the absolute places to detect when they don't know what they are, right? It's not intended to say, hey, dig here, we guarantee results, but we do an inverse scan of thousands and thousands of data points and aggregate that and score it and give our users, hey, this may be a place that you might want to check out. That's Deep Strike. Okay. Sorry, there was a question?
Yeah, type in Boise on Deep Strike.
Oh, you did?
No, type in Boise on Deep Strike.
Oh, it takes about 60 seconds to do a search.
Okay.
Everyone here that has a free account can run as many Deep Strikes as they want. Okay. If we have time at the end, I'll go back to Deep Strike. Right, but I've got 5 or 6 other tools that I want to breeze through real quick. This is FieldIQ. There's a gentleman who I actually was on the phone about an hour with ago. His name is Mark. Anyone ever hear of Brass Medic?
Yeah.
Right. So I was on the phone with Mark about an hour before we started here. He's a friend of mine. He's going to have some involvement in Subterrix because he became a user and loves it. But long story short, when I started metal detecting, he was one of the first detectorists that I ever ran into. And Mark is really good with he's a Mind Lab rep, right, or an ambassador, and he's really good at helping people figure out their settings. The problem is that somehow out in the woods, I would change or modify the settings. They wouldn't work properly. I would need to roll back to his YouTube video for the Mind Lab Equinox 900, which is one of my machines, to try and reconfigure it, and I got tired of it, right, of wasting that time. FieldIQ is intended to solve the problem of calibrating your machine for exactly what it is that you're looking to accomplish. So what we've done is we've ingested 15 of the most powerful and most popular detectors as far as their user manuals, right? There's about 30,000 pages of data, right? So imagine buying a brand new Manticore or a Deus 2 or an Equinox or whatever it may be, right? Not many people have the patience or discipline to read through every single line in that manual. Well, technology loves reading that stuff, right? So we've ingested those manuals. So with Deep Strike, you're able to select your detector. In this case, I'm just going to use a Deus 2, right? It's going to ask you what you're hunting for, right? Best overall, coins and clad, relics and artifacts, jewelry, beach, iron-fested sites, gold prospecting, deep seeking. In this example, we're going to click beach and saltwater. It's then going to say, hey, what are you looking for, right? Or where are you looking to detect? Park, playground, farm field, beach, woods, wet sand, underwater, so forth and so on. In this example, we'll do beach and wet sand, surf, and then we enter our zip code. Right? And what happens is it will then it will go through the analytics, it will go through the manual, and it will calibrate it based on a multi-factor elimination process. It's going to do a deep insight and analysis of the soil, right? Whether it be sand or dirt, right? It's going to take into consideration what machine, what you're looking for, and where you're looking to detect. And what it's going to end up doing is calibrate your machine and make recommendations precisely for the data that you entered. It's going to give you the general setting, right? So, for example, for the Deus 2, the default setting for program is general. It's going to tell you to change it to 12 beat sends, right? Frequency, it's going to tell you to keep it at multi. The reactivity, which is calibrated based on the soil, at a 3, which is general. Sensitivity, it's going to tell you to drop down to 85 from the general of 90, right? It's going to give you specific settings that's calibrated for precisely what you entered. And then instead of going back to that YouTube video and watching Brass Medic, as much as I love Mark, it's going to spit out the exact instructions how to change whatever it is that you agree with without having to look at the manual or do anything, because this is directly from the manual. From there, you're able to literally send it to your phone, share it, print the instructions, or generate a new FieldIQ report. So this is intended to maximize the power of your detector based on where you're looking to detect, what you're looking to detect, your soil of where you're looking to detect, and what detector you're using. That's FieldIQ. Okay. Moving on. This is Property Recon. This report or this tool set was built based on the fact that for the last 11 years since I've lived in my house, I've passed countless properties that I've never seen a human being walk on. It's either overgrown or there's a house there that's really old, but I've never seen a person. And I always wanted to find out, is that state? Is that local? Is that county? Is it private? Is it commercial? Who owns it? How do I get access to it? And what does that parcel of land look like? So we built Property Recon, right? So all you literally need to do is just enter an address here or a latitude, longitude, and click Generate Report. What that report output will look like is technology and access to tools that usually for this alone cost about $30 a month, right? So right off the bat, I actually typed in my home address, and there's a reason why I did that, and I'm going to show you in a minute. So right off the bat, it's going to give you an executive summary, right? 1586 Woodrow Road is classified as a private multifamily residential property. That's accurate. The parcel size is 2612. It's owned by Agatha Arante, that's my wife, based on Richmond County tax assessor records, right? It's going to tell you that metal detecting or any activity on private property requires explicit written permission due to the New York State trespass laws. And then a New York Parks metal detector permit program does not apply to this private property. It's then going to give you everything from the land classification to the property type, to the terrain, to the parcel size. It's then going to give you the parcel boundaries. And part of the reason why I did this for this example is I live in a multifamily, meaning that between both houses, it's around 5,400 square feet, but we're connected. So if I knock on this wall, that's my neighbor, right? But what the technology is able to do is it's able to split the parcel based on the architectural plans and what is at the county, and literally map out the small parcel of land that we actually own. Okay. In addition to that, it's going to give you all the data of the property owner, historical timeline. My house was built in 2000. There's really no history there. It's going to give you, based on New York State and city penal code, written law of what happens if I metal detect without permission in the state of New York, right? It's going to identify the penal law. It's going to give you the silent law. It's going to tell you what the risk is. It's going to then give you recommendations. And what I think is really interesting here is we have a built-in, what I consider to be the absolute best permission request letter that's ever been available for the public. So you're able to not only enter your full name, your phone number, your email, whatever club you might be affiliated with, identify if you carry liability insurance, what your experience level is, whether or not you're willing to share fines on the property or not, right? What you're looking for, the dates that you might be interested in hunting on that property, the times that work for you, and then anything else, you click generate letter. And this is going, and I promise this is going to be the absolute most comprehensive, detailed, and well-written permission request letter that anyone's ever seen. Because what it's also going to do, above and beyond putting in your data and then spitting out a letter, it's also going to associate the historical significance of that area, right? And what that means to the community, and that you're trying to save it. So I'm not going to read it out here, but this is probably the best permission request letter that anyone's ever seen. And then based on that, you can copy it to a clipboard. You can download it as a PDF. You can print it, lick an envelope, drop it in the mail, or drop it in their mailbox. Okay? So that's Recon Property Report. Okay? We're going to breeze through the next couple now that we're on a roll. Identify. By raise of hands, does anybody ever use anything like a coin snap or something like that to be able to identify coins and understand, what they are and what they might be worth, right? I love CoinSnap, and I was an early adopter of it. But where I became frustrated with it is it's predominantly U.S. only, right? I happen to live in Staten Island, New York, which is between New Jersey and Brooklyn, New York, right? So when it came to the Revolutionary War and other skirmishes, we had French, British, and American armies all have skirmishes here. There are more King Georges on Staten Island than there are large cents, right? So largely, CoinSnap was worthless. On top of it, though, even if we did find an American coin, usually with CoinSnap, and I'm not knocking them, we talk to them all the time, 99% of the time, that coin has to be legible, clean, right? Or preserved, right? And the majority of stuff that I find here, because the soil is so acidic in New York, you never find anything clean. Even if you are good at preserving it or restoring it, it's pitted, it's nubbed down, right? It's usually not identifiable. So we wanted to build a tool that actually, with a high degree of confidence, can help you identify coins even when they're destroyed. So what I did here was I actually uploaded a King George the third half penny that I found about 6 months ago. If everyone can see the screens, this coin is down to the nub. It's barely legible, okay? But if you notice here, you can just make out a GEO, right? So with OCR technology that's available through firms like Google and other areas, it's going to then look at the size, right? We're going to enter as much information as we can, where it was found, right? And what it's able to do almost 100% of the time is accurately identify that coin, give you a reference match, provide you with historical context, give you the dates that coin was likely from, right? It will also identify some type of an estimated value. We're connected through numerous places like Numista and other areas. It's going to give you the numismatic details of it, right? Where it's cataloged so you can learn more information. And if it's not accurate, it's going to give you 2 or 3 additional likely replacements that coin or token likely will be, right? So that's Identify. So it's great post-metal detecting. If you're interested in trying to identify a coin that's absolutely roached. Okay. Next is a similar tool that we call the Artifact Care Almanac. Okay. The Artifact Care Almanac is the same as Identify, but it's more for artifacts than it is for coins. So in this particular example, about a month ago, I actually found a dagger sticking halfway out of the ground by a tree, right? I wanted to identify first and foremost what it was, when it was from, and what type of metal composition it was, because it started to pit and rot, and I wanted to at least keep it from getting worse. Our technology has the ability to scan almost any type of metal, identify the condition of that metal, and prescribe a solution to conserve it or preserve it or restore it. So in this particular case, right, this is a dagger that's about 8 inches long, right? It's going to identify it. So it's going to say that this is made of iron. It's an iron blade with a bronze or copper alloy hilt, possibly a small dagger or tool. Awesome. I knew that because the shape is obvious, but there's a lot of stuff that I've never seen before, right? It's then going to give you supplemental metals if it's not iron, right? What it could be. It's then going to give you a condition assessment. And what it's going to do is, as you hover over these areas, it's first going to evaluate the patina. In this case, the hilt's patina is stable, but the blade surface is actively corroding. It's going to give you analysis of the surface, that it has thick corrosion, crust with loose rust and soil on the surface. It's then going to talk about the corrosion, where it's active corrosion with orange and brown rust, possible iron chlorides. And then lastly, structural issues. The blade is fragile with significant material loss and flaking. The hilt appears structurally sound. So it's going to do an analysis of those 4 areas. And then based on that, it's going to give you 3 different care tracks. How to stabilize it so it doesn't get worse, how to clean and preserve it, or if you wanted to conserve it, that's track C. It's going to tell you how to store it and how to protect it. And then if you want There's some additional information here that we've created to be able to help you do whatever path that you decided that you wanted to do. That's Artifact Care Almanac. That can be for any type of metal, right? A shield, a badge. I mean, I'm just looking at a musket ball, a pocket watch cover. It could be for anything. Okay, that's Artifact Care Almanac. Okay. Next is HuntCast. We're going to spend about a minute on this at the most. As we launched Subterrix, one of the things that I did was I put out a survey to about 1,000 people and said, if Subterrix can solve an issue for you that you wish can be solved, what would it be? And by far the most common response is, I wish before I drive 2 hours to a site that I can find out whether or not the soil is wet, soupy, muddy, because then I'm not going to be able to dig. Well, we wanted to solve for that and just do a little bit more. So with HuntCast, all you're simply doing is entering an address, and what it's going to end up doing is give you a live data stream of the condition of the soil and tell you everything that you need to know and more. So I typed in that very same park. So currently, meaning this very minute, or when I did this score, it ranked a 54, and identifying that water pools and sits may be soggy for days after rain, and it's scoring it fair at 54. It's then going to give you a factor breakdown. It's going to give you live ground temperature, weekly rainfall, humidity, wind, visibility, rainfall timing, and pressure trend. That's adding and subtracting to give you a net result of 54. It's then going to give you the deepest soil analysis that anyone's ever seen as far as the drainage class of the soil, which is a -8, mineralization, which is a -8, soil texture, which is a +5, clay content, soil moisture, and then detecting intelligence. Signal stability is low, right, because it's highly mineralized, as I said earlier. Dig difficulty, a +2, right, because silt loam sometimes is hard. And then it's going to give you a detailed ground condition forecast, right? And then lastly, it's going to parcel out the land and tell you, hey, the green area, that area is drying out. The area closer towards the red, which is higher, right, is urban land and it's still wet. Stay away from that area. Okay? So
Sure.
that is HuntCast.
We need to get wrapped up if you could.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Running out of time.
No worries. Map Seller, we literally have 1 million maps available. You type in your address, click on a map. None of it is pixelated. It's crystal clear. We have over 1 million maps in here from numerous sites from the 1500s to modern times, right? Fathom, we just launched yesterday. This is for shipwrecks. For those of you that beach detect, you can enter in an address. It's going to identify for you shipwrecks that are within a proximity. You're able to click on any one of them and not only read about the shipwreck itself, but it's going to give you detecting intel and identify the detecting potential based on debris potentially making its way. And it's going to tell you where on the beach that you should detect. And similar to the expedition report where we're able to regenerate, it's also able to give an exact replica of what that ship would have looked like, right? SiteWatch is our last here. SiteWatch is essentially for properties that have had permits that were approved for demolition, right? You're able to type in a city or a state, and it's going to give you historical significance of that property, identify when that permit was pulled, so you have 30 days from that point to try and reach that homeowner and try and detect before that site is demolished. And we've got about 38,000 sites where permits are active on properties. Okay? I can spend another hour and a half doing that, but I'm not going to. But that is effectively the 12 tools that we currently offer through Subterrix at the moment. Okay? Before we part, I've got a couple cool pieces of news, right? First of all, your club was gracious enough to sign up, which is free as a club, okay? Through that club, there's going to be a few things that you're going to want to know. First and foremost, any one of you can sign up for a free account. We don't collect your credit card. I have no interest in collecting it. Every free account essentially gets 20 credits per month for you to use however you want using any tool. We don't force you into any tool. Each tool has a different cost of credits, right? because because Jason and everyone that I've engaged with so far has been so wonderful. If anyone does sign up for a free account and they don't have one, I will add an additional $50 credits to their account, so you'll have a total of 70 to be able to use. Okay, the 20 credits will reset each and every month. The 50 will stay in there until you use all of them. Okay, so that's number one. For anyone that doesn't have an account, you can go to subterrix.com on your desktop or on your laptop, sign up for a free account. As you're signing up, it's going to ask you, are you part of a club? You're going to select yours. That's how I know, and I'll add the 50 credits, right? On top of that, for anyone that is already an Elite member, and I think there are a bunch of you that have it, I'm going to add an additional 50 credits. Elite members get 300 credits per month that reset, right? So anyone that is an Elite member, I'm going to natively give an additional 50 credits. And then lastly, what Jason's going to do here, per our discussion earlier, is however he does it, but we're going to give away 2 one-year Elite memberships for completely free. Okay? And then for anyone that does sign up, right, through your club, instead of charging $15.99 a month for Elite membership, we charge $8.99 a month, and 20% of that goes right back to your club. Okay? That's everything. So I know it's a lot of information, but I wanted to try and be as comprehensive as possible.
Trying to any questions or?
I think we should try to do a couple questions.
Okay, a couple questions quick, I guess.
Awesome.
Questions? Anyone? Okay, one question.
So how do you account for facilities or infrastructure that typically doesn't release a lot of mapping of their facility? Are those accounted for in here? Do they show? Can you zoom in on those things?
It was very hard to hear the nice young lady. Can someone repeat that?
I didn't quite accounting for.
So like if they're like, how do you account for properties that don't have any data? Does it just not show up, or does it say it needs more data?
We have our AI and our data points to never hallucinate, right? Artificial intelligence generally likes to hallucinate. So it's always built to please the master. So even if something doesn't exist, it will try to make something up to make you happy. Ours doesn't. Usually we're pulling from so many data points that usually what most people have access to that they don't see, we do. That's not guaranteed. So there very well maybe if there's absolutely no information, we just won't render it. But we do have access to so many data points that usually what does not show up for you will through Subterrix.
My question is, are you doing this for gold too?
We are working on a whole bunch of products. As soon as I can get some shut-eye and stop building tools, we're going to expand into gold, meteorites, and then expand outside of the US to Canada, Asia, and Europe. So the answer is yes. I just need to get some sleep first.
Any other questions? Will there be an app?
Will there be an
Yes, great question. Do not use this on your cell phone. You will hate it because the platform is too powerful. Desktop, laptop, we are working on an app. It probably will begin the build in August. We needed to get past 1,000 users in order to justify the spend. It's insanely expensive to build an app. The app will probably be ready sometime in October, but we have it slated for an August build. Yes. And let me repeat that. Do not use it on your cell phone. You're not going to be happy with the result. It's just too powerful for mobile web. And if you are using a laptop or a desktop, Chrome or Edge are the two preferred. Those are the most technologically sophisticated where the technology plays well with each other.
Okay. All right. That's all we have. Thanks,
guys. Everyone, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I know that was a lot to get through. I hope I didn't bore everyone to tears. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Awesome. Be well, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you again. Let's take a quick 2-minute break or bathroom break, and then we'll get to the raffle and fun.